A single ring changed the fate of Middle-earth forever. This is the story of how one Dark Lord almost enslaved every living soul across 3 ages of the world. Let's go back to the Second Age. Something happens that nobody sees coming. In the fires of Mount Doom, the Dark Lord Sauron secretly forges the One Ring. This isn't just any piece of jewelry. Sauron pours a massive part of his own power into this golden band. His plan is simple but terrifying. Control every other ring of power that exists. Here's the thing, though. Elves, dwarves, and men have already accepted their own rings from what they think are trustworthy sources. These leaders believe they're getting gifts that will help their people prosper. They have no idea that Sauron's Master Ring can dominate all the others. The moment he puts on the One Ring, every other ring becomes his puppet. When Sauron reveals his treachery, the free peoples realize they've been played. The rings they thought would bring prosperity become chains of slavery. Sauron uses his One Ring to command all the others, turning their power against the very people they were meant to help. This betrayal sparks the War of the Last Alliance. King Elendil leads the men, while Elven King Gil-galad commands his people. Together, they march on Sauron's stronghold in Mordor. The Alliance brings armies from across Middle-earth to face down the Dark Lord. The final battle happens on the slopes of Mount Doom itself. Sauron enters the fight personally, wielding power that no mortal should possess. He cuts down warriors like wheat before a scythe. Then Isildur, son of Elendil, does something that changes everything. He manages to cut the One Ring from Sauron's hand with his father's broken sword. The moment the ring separates from Sauron, his physical form crumbles. His spirit flees like smoke in the wind. The Second Age ends right there on that battlefield. The Third Age begins with hope that the darkness has been defeated forever. But Isildur makes a choice that dooms Middle-earth for thousands of years. Standing at the edge of Mount Doom's fires, Isildur has the chance to destroy the One Ring completely. All he has to do is throw it into the lava where it was forged. The ring would melt away and Sauron could never return. Instead, the ring's corruption gets its hooks into him. Isildur claims the ring as payment for his dead father. He calls it Weregild and refuses to cast it into the flames. The moment he makes that decision, he seals his own fate. Isildur doesn't get to enjoy his prize for long. While traveling north, orcs ambush his party at the Gladden Fields. The ring, which has its own evil will, betrays Isildur at the worst possible moment. It slips from his finger just when he needs its invisibility most. The orcs kill him, and the ring vanishes into the river waters. For over 2,500 years, the One Ring lies lost at the bottom of the river. Most people forget it ever existed. It becomes legend, then myth, then nothing more than old stories told around fires. Around the year 2463 of the Third Age, a store hobbit named Déagol finds something glinting in the riverbed while fishing. But his friend Sméagol sees the golden ring and immediately falls under its spell. The ring's evil influence drives Sméagol to murder Déagol right there by the water. He takes the ring and flees to the misty mountains. Under those dark peaks, the ring slowly transforms Sméagol into something else entirely. It stretches his life far beyond natural limits while poisoning his mind. He becomes Gollum, a wretched creature who hoards his precious in the deepest tunnels. For almost 5 centuries, Gollum lives alone in the darkness, talking to the ring like it's his only friend. Then the ring decides it's time to move on. In the year 2941, a hobbit named Bilbo Baggins gets lost in Gollum's tunnels. He stumbles upon the ring by pure chance and wins it from Gollum in a riddle game. Bilbo has no idea what he's actually found. To him, it's just a magic ring that makes him invisible. Bilbo takes the ring back to the Shire and uses it sparingly. He pulls it out for party tricks and avoiding unwanted visitors. He thinks he's just found a useful tool for dealing with annoying relatives. What Bilbo doesn't know is that he's just inherited the most dangerous weapon in Middle-earth. While Bilbo lives peacefully in his hobbit hole, something dark stirs in Mordor. Sauron's spirit has been slowly rebuilding itself for thousands of years. He's rising again, gathering power and armies. But he knows he'll never be truly mighty without his ring. Sauron begins searching desperately for the One Ring. He sends out spies and servants to scour Middle-earth. His power remains greatly diminished without the ring, but he's patient. He's been waiting for thousands of years already. The ring that was meant to enslave the world now sits quietly on a mantle in Bag End. Bilbo Baggins has no idea that by finding that golden band, he's set in motion events that will reshape the fate of every living thing in Middle-earth. The stage is set for the War of the Ring to begin. The most important party in Middle-earth history was about to begin. What started as a simple birthday celebration would trigger events that would shake the world. 60 years have passed since Bilbo found the ring in Gollum's cave. He should be ancient by now, but he looks exactly the same as he did decades ago. The ring has been preserving him, keeping him young while time moves forward around him. By September of Third Age 3001, Bilbo is preparing to celebrate his 111th birthday in the Shire. He calls it his 111st birthday, and the whole thing is going to be massive. In his study at Bag End, Bilbo sits writing his memoirs. He's calling the book Concerning Hobbits, describing all the rustic ways of hobbit life. Outside his window, excited party guests are already gathering, trying to get his attention. Bilbo calls out for Frodo to answer the door, then remembers his nephew isn't even home. Down the road, something magical is happening. Gandalf the Grey arrives in Hobbiton with his horse-drawn cart. The wandering wizard is an old friend of Bilbo's, and he's here for the birthday celebration. Frodo Baggins, Bilbo's young nephew and heir, runs out to meet Gandalf on the road. He's delighted to see the wizard. Frodo teases Gandalf about being late. Gandalf gives him one of those wizard responses that sounds wise and mysterious. A wizard is never late, he says. He arrives precisely when he means to. Together, Gandalf and Frodo ride into the village. The cart is loaded with something that makes hobbit children lose their minds with excitement: fireworks. A group of young hobbits chase the cart, hoping to get a glimpse of what Gandalf has planned. The party field by the party tree has been transformed. Tents and lanterns are everywhere. Tables groan under the weight of hobbit food. The preparations are in full swing for what's going to be the party of the century. This isn't just any birthday celebration. It's Bilbo's 111th birthday and also Frodo's 33rd birthday. The timing is perfect, and Bilbo has spared no expense. Dozens of hobbit friends and relatives show up. There's music, feasting, and dancing. Laughter fills the air as the Shire comes alive. But the real star of the show is Gandalf's fireworks. Throughout the evening, Gandalf sets off spectacular displays that leave everyone gasping. The most memorable firework takes the shape of a roaring dragon that flies over the astonished crowd. It's a playful nod to Bilbo's adventure with Smaug all those years ago. Two young hobbits named Meriadoc Brandybuck and Peregrine Took, known for their mischief, decide they want in on the action. Merry and Pippin sneak a large dragon-shaped firework from Gandalf's stash. They accidentally set it off in a chaotic prank that sends a flaming dragon rocket shooting through the party tent. The crowd goes wild. This is exactly the kind of excitement hobbits live for. As the night reaches its peak, Bilbo stands up to address his guests. He gives a speech that confuses everyone in the most Bilbo way possible. He tells them he doesn't know half of them half as well as he should like, and he likes less than half of them half as well as they deserve. The hobbits scratch their heads trying to figure out if that's a compliment or an insult. Then Bilbo drops a bombshell. He announces that he's leaving right there and then. Before anyone can react, he slips the one ring onto his finger and vanishes in front of everyone's eyes. The crowd gasps in astonishment. Most of them think it's just another one of Bilbo's eccentric magic tricks. They have no idea he's using the most dangerous weapon in Middle-earth to pull off his disappearing act. Under cover of the ring's invisibility, Bilbo sneaks away from his own party. He heads back to Bag End to prepare for a journey he's been planning for a long time. Gandalf suspects something and follows him. At Bag End, Gandalf finds Bilbo in the entry hall, visible again, and packing for what looks like a very long trip. Bilbo has decided to leave the Shire for good. He wants to visit the elves at Rivendell and retire among them. This is when things get dangerous. Gandalf urges Bilbo to leave the ring behind for Frodo. The moment he suggests this, something ugly flares up in Bilbo. The ring's influence shows its true face. Bilbo calls it his precious and grows possessive in a way that's completely unlike him. He refuses to give it up. Gandalf sees what's happening and shows a rare display of firm power. He warns Bilbo in a voice that makes it clear he's dealing with forces beyond normal hobbit understanding. The warning startles Bilbo back to his senses. He realizes what just happened and how the ring was affecting him. With visible effort, he drops the ring to the floor. Relief and sadness wash over him as he breaks free from its influence. In that moment, Bilbo becomes the first ring-bearer to voluntarily surrender the One Ring. Gandalf is visibly proud of him for fighting off its corruption. The two old friends share an emotional farewell. Bilbo thanks Gandalf and admits he's put this departure off far too long. He picks up his pack and his book of memoirs, then sets off with a light heart for Rivendell. He leaves everything to Frodo, including his home, possessions, and the ring. When Frodo returns to Bag End, he finds that Bilbo has vanished. Gandalf explains that his uncle has left him everything, including a mysterious gold ring. Frodo is saddened by Bilbo's sudden departure, but accepts his inheritance. Gandalf is deeply unsettled by what he witnessed. Bilbo's mood swing and the way he called the ring precious has raised serious alarms. The wizard doesn't explain his full concerns to Frodo yet, but he gives stern warnings. "Keep the ring secret and safe at all costs," Gandalf tells him. "Don't use it or show it to anyone." Frodo secures the ring in an envelope, thinking it's just a family heirloom with some minor magic properties. That night, Gandalf leaves the Shire. He has urgent business to attend to. The wizard needs to find answers about this ring's true identity, and he needs to find them fast. Frodo becomes the new ring-bearer without understanding what that really means. As Gandalf rides away into the darkness, a long shadow begins to fall over the quiet Shire. The party is over, but the real adventure is just beginning. The most dangerous secret in Middle-earth was about to be exposed. What Gandalf discovered in dusty archives would change everything Frodo thought he knew about his inheritance. After Bilbo's departure, Gandalf can't shake his growing suspicions. Something about that ring bothers him deeply. The way it preserved Bilbo's youth for 60 years. The way Bilbo called it precious and refused to give it up. These aren't normal magical effects. Gandalf fears he knows what Frodo has inherited, but he needs proof. The wizard leaves the Shire and rides hard to Minas Tirith in Gondor. This ancient city houses the most complete archives in Middle-earth. If answers exist anywhere, they'll be found in those dusty libraries where scholars keep the records of ages past. Gandalf spends months buried in musty tomes and crumbling scrolls. He searches through every account of the ancient wars, every description of legendary artifacts. His eyes strain in candlelight as he pores over documents that most people have forgotten exist. Finally, he finds what he's looking for. Isildur's own account of the One Ring sits before him like a smoking gun. The ancient king described the ring's appearance in detail, but one detail stands out above all others. The ring bears fiery writing that becomes visible only when heated by flame. Armed with this critical knowledge, Gandalf races back to the Shire. If he's right about what Frodo carries, time is running out fast. Gandalf returns to Bag End in the spring of 3018. Frodo welcomes his old friend, having no idea that his quiet life is about to explode into chaos. Without explaining what he's doing, Gandalf takes the ring from Frodo and tosses it into the fireplace. Frodo is alarmed, thinking Gandalf has just destroyed his inheritance. But when Gandalf retrieves the ring from the flames, something terrifying appears. Glowing script becomes visible on the golden band, exactly as Isildur described centuries ago. The writing burns like fire across the metal surface. Gandalf reads the inscription aloud, his voice heavy with dread. One ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them. This confirms Gandalf's worst fears beyond any doubt. The simple gold ring that Frodo thought was just a family heirloom is actually the One Ring of Sauron. The most evil artifact ever created sits in a hobbit hole in the peaceful Shire. Frodo is stunned and terrified by this revelation. His quiet world has just collapsed around him. Gandalf explains the true danger they're facing. Sauron's life force is bound to this ring. If the Dark Lord recovers his lost weapon, all of Middle-earth will fall into eternal darkness. Every free person alive will become a slave. But the news gets worse. Gandalf shares intelligence he gathered during his research. The creature Gollum, who possessed the ring for centuries, was recently captured and tortured by Sauron's forces. Under torment, Gollum revealed two crucial pieces of information: Shire, Baggins. This means Sauron knows exactly where to find his ring. He knows it's in the Shire, in the hands of someone named Baggins. Frodo realizes with mounting horror that his quiet homeland has become a target. He personally is now marked for death by the most powerful evil force in existence. The peaceful Shire that's never known war is about to become a battlefield. Gandalf delivers urgent instructions. Frodo must leave the Shire immediately. The plan is to get him to Rivendell, the elf haven in the east, where the wise can decide what to do next. The journey must be kept absolutely secret. Frodo should tell only a trusted few. The decision breaks Frodo's heart. He's never wanted adventure or heroics. All he wanted was to live quietly in the Shire like his ancestors. Now he has to abandon his home and friends to carry the most dangerous burden in the world. As Frodo and Gandalf discuss the plan, they hear rustling outside the window. Someone has been listening to their conversation. They catch Samwise Gamgee eavesdropping, having overheard mention of elves and missions while trimming the hedges. Instead of scolding Sam for spying, Gandalf recruits him on the spot. He tells the flustered gardener that he'll go with Frodo or he'll never be in one piece again. The threat is delivered with a smile, but Sam understands the seriousness underneath. Sam is overjoyed at the prospect of seeing elves. More importantly, he vows to stick by Mr. Frodo no matter what dangers they face. The loyal gardener has just become Frodo's first companion on the road to destiny. Gandalf must leave to attend other urgent business, but he promises to meet them later at the Inn of the Prancing Pony in Bree. He tells Frodo to start the journey immediately and travel under the false name Underhill for concealment. Frodo and Sam begin secretly packing for their departure, trying to act normal while preparing to flee their homeland. Gandalf rides off to consult with Saruman the White, the head of his order. Saruman is the chief of all wizards and has always been wise and trustworthy. Gandalf needs advice from someone with the power and knowledge to help plan their next moves. At Isengard, Gandalf climbs the Black Tower of Orthanc to meet with Saruman. He's seeking counsel from his superior, hoping for wisdom and support in the crisis ahead. Instead, he walks into a trap. Saruman reveals that he has betrayed everything the wizards once stood for. Through a Palantir seeing stone, he's been communicating with Sauron himself. The White Wizard now believes that resistance against the Dark Lord is pointless. The news gets worse with every word Saruman speaks. The 9 Nazgûl have already been sent out from Mordor to hunt for the ring. These ring wraiths will soon reach the Shire, bringing death and terror to the peaceful land. Saruman tries to convince Gandalf to join their side. He envisions them ruling Middle-earth together using the ring's power. The offer is delivered like a reasonable business proposition. Gandalf is horrified and refuses flatly. There can be no cooperation with ultimate evil. Saruman's response is swift and brutal. Enraged by Gandalf's defiance, he attacks his former ally. The two wizards engage in a fierce magical duel in the ornate chamber of Orthanc. Saruman overpowers Gandalf using his greater strength. He slams the Grey Wizard with telekinetic blows and whirls him around like a rag doll. Gandalf is disarmed and defeated by the White's superior power. Saruman imprisons Gandalf atop the pinnacle of Orthanc, stranding him on the tower's highest point. From his prison, Gandalf witnesses something that chills him to the bone. Isengard's Green Valley is being systematically destroyed. Legions of orcs tear down ancient trees and construct forges and pits. Saruman has begun an industrial war machine. Even worse, he's breeding a new strain of orc called Uruk-hai. These creatures are larger and stronger than normal orcs, and they can endure sunlight. Saruman plans to use them as his army to find the ring and wage war on all free peoples. Gandalf is left stranded on the tower roof, watching Saruman's preparations for conquest while being completely unable to help Frodo. The wizard who promised to meet the hobbits at Bree is now a prisoner, and his young friends are walking into deadly danger with no idea what's coming for them. Four hobbits were about to discover that evil moves faster than anyone expects. What started as a secret escape would become a terrifying chase across the countryside. On the very same night Gandalf delivered his warning, Frodo and Sam slip out of Bag End under cover of darkness. There's no time to waste. Every hour they delay gives the enemy more chance to find them. Frodo has already sold his home to his relatives, the Sackville Bagginses, using it as cover to explain why he's leaving. The story he tells everyone is simple. He's moving to his old family land in Buckland for a change of scenery. In the early hours before dawn, Frodo and Sam depart Bag End. Frodo carries the ring hidden on his person, feeling its weight in ways that go beyond simple metal and gold. They cut across the countryside instead of taking main roads, staying off paths where they might be spotted. Frodo doesn't even say proper goodbyes to his friends. It's too dangerous. The fewer people who know about his departure, the safer everyone will be. They make their way nervously through the quiet lanes and fields of the Shire. Every shadow could hide danger. Every sound might be hoofbeats. They know black riders will soon be searching for anyone named Baggins. As they trek across farmland near Buckleberry, something unexpected happens. They bump into two familiar figures who are up to no good. Merry Brandybuck and Pippin Took are in the middle of raiding a farmer's crop. Their arms are full of stolen vegetables when Frodo and Sam stumble into them. The collision is pure chaos. All four hobbits tumble down a slope into the road with carrots and cabbages flying everywhere. Despite being caught red-handed stealing vegetables, Merry and Pippin are more interested in what Frodo is doing out here. They realize immediately that something big is happening. Frodo is off somewhere suddenly, and that means adventure. Frodo is torn between his fondness for his cousins and his worry about their safety. He knows the danger they'll face if they come along, but Merry and Pippin won't take no for an answer. They insist on accompanying Frodo at least to Buckland. Now a company of 4 hobbits instead of 2, they press on together toward the East Road. As evening falls, they approach the edge of the Shire. This is when Frodo first senses that something terrible is hunting them. An unearthly screech echoes in the distance. Terror fills his heart for no reason he can understand. Then they hear hoofbeats on the road behind them. Frodo's instincts scream danger. He urges his friends to get off the road immediately. The 4 hobbits scramble into the woods and hide beneath the gnarled roots of a large tree by the roadside. What emerges from the darkness is worse than any of them imagined. A black rider appears, cloaked and mounted on a massive black horse. This is one of the Nazgûl, the ring wraiths that Gandalf warned about. The creature radiates evil that makes brave hearts quake with fear. The rider halts right next to their hiding spot. The hobbits crouch in absolute silence while the Nazgûl sniffs the air above them. Its presence is suffocating. Frodo feels the ring pulling at him, urging him to put it on. The temptation grows stronger as the rider looms overhead. The Nazgûl emits horrible, raspy breathing. It starts to crouch down as if sensing something nearby. The ring is calling to its master, and the wraith can feel its presence. At the last possible second, Merry saves them all. He throws his bag to create a distraction. A flock of crows bursts from the trees, drawing the rider's attention away from their hiding spot. The black rider moves off, momentarily diverted by the noise. Frodo and his friends seize their chance and flee. This close encounter confirms how deadly serious their situation has become. The Nazgûl can inspire paralyzing fear just by existing near you. They're actively combing the Shire, searching for anyone named Baggins. Through that night, the hobbits make their way cross-country in near panic. They avoid main roads completely, sometimes moving almost blindly through unfamiliar terrain. Every minute feels like borrowed time. Eventually, they reach the banks of the Brandywine River. Here sits the Buckleberry Ferry, a small raft used to cross into Buckland. If they can get across the river, they'll have some protection from their pursuers. As they approach the ferry, disaster strikes. A black rider suddenly emerges behind them. The wraith has tracked their scent through the night and caught up just when they thought they were safe. Frodo sprints for the ferry in absolute panic. Sam, Merry, and Pippin follow at a dead run. Behind them, the rider's shrill screech pierces the night as it gallops after them. The race to the water becomes a matter of life and death. The hobbits manage to cast off the ferry just as the wraith's horse explodes from the trees. The rider almost reaches Frodo before the ferry pulls out onto the river. For a terrifying moment, it looks like the creature might leap the gap. But the black rider reins up at the water's edge. Whether it's unable or unwilling to enter the rushing river, the wraith stops its pursuit. It lets out a blood-curdling scream of frustration as Frodo and his friends slip away to the far shore. The sound chills them to the bone, but they're safe for now. Even with the river between them and their pursuer, the hobbits don't pause to catch their breath. They know the rider will seek another crossing. Time is still working against them. They race toward the nearby town of Bree, following Gandalf's instructions. The wizard promised to meet them at the Inn of the Prancing Pony. Right now, finding Gandalf feels like their only hope of survival. The peaceful Shire that raised them is behind them now. Ahead lies a dangerous world where ancient evils hunt anyone carrying the burden they never asked for. The four friends run through the night, hoping they can reach safety before the Nazgûl find another way across the water. Their flight from home has become a flight for their lives. The biggest mistake Frodo could make was about to happen in front of a room full of strangers. One moment of carelessness would bring the enemy straight to their door. The four hobbits reach the gates of Bree at night in pouring rain. They're soaked, exhausted, and terrified after their escape from the Black Rider. Bree is a rustic village where men and hobbits live side by side. But right now, it feels like the most welcoming sight in the world. The suspicious gatekeeper hesitates to let them in so late at night. Who travels in weather like this? But Frodo remembers Gandalf's advice and gives a vague explanation about going to the inn. The gatekeeper finally relents and opens the wooden gates. Inside Bree's walls, the hobbits make their way to the Prancing Pony, the village inn. This is where Gandalf promised to meet them, their one hope of finding help in this dangerous world. Frodo uses the false name Mr. Underhill when speaking to the innkeeper, Barliman Butterbur. He can't risk drawing attention with the name Baggins. The enemy is already hunting for that exact name. The news hits them like a cold slap. Gandalf hasn't arrived or been seen in Bree recently. Frodo's worry deepens with every passing minute. What they don't know is that Gandalf is trapped atop Saruman's tower, unable to help anyone. Butterbur provides them with a room and has food and drink served. The weary, hungry hobbits are grateful to be indoors after their frantic journey. For the first time since leaving Bag End, they can rest without looking over their shoulders. But safety is an illusion when you're carrying the One Ring. Frodo is determined to keep a low profile. He advises his friends to stay quiet about their quest, knowing that loose talk could get them all killed. The common room is busy with Bree locals and wandering travelers, exactly the kind of place where dangerous words might reach the wrong ears. Pippin, however, can't help himself. The jovial young hobbit starts chatting with fellow patrons. As Frodo tries to remain inconspicuous, Pippin begins loudly telling stories about Bilbo's infamous birthday disappearance trick. He's treating it like an entertaining tale rather than a dangerous secret. Frodo knows this is exactly what they can't afford. Talk of Bilbo vanishing, or any mention of the Baggins name, could draw deadly attention. He moves quickly to intercept Pippin just as his cousin is about to blurt out Bilbo's name. In the scuffle to keep Pippin quiet, disaster strikes. Frodo loses his balance and falls toward the floor. The One Ring slips from his pocket, spinning through the air. As Frodo hits the ground, the ring lands perfectly on his finger. Instantly, Frodo vanishes into thin air in front of everyone's eyes. The crowd erupts in astonishment. People gasp and mutter about magic tricks, but their suspicion is clear. This looked far too real to be simple entertainment. Frodo finds himself in the Ring's Wraith world, a terrifying realm where the Nazgûl exist. In this nightmare vision, he sees the ominous, fiery eye of Sauron staring directly at him. The Dark Lord knows exactly where he is now. Frodo realizes he's made a terrible mistake. He manages to pull the ring off his finger and reappears under a table a moment later, but the damage is already done. The incident looked completely unnatural to everyone watching. The worst part is that someone very dangerous was paying attention. A hooded ranger sitting quietly in the corner had been watching the whole scene unfold. This man is known in Bree as Strider, a scruffy, travel-worn wanderer who keeps to himself. Most locals assume he's just another drifter passing through. After Frodo reappears, Strider moves quickly. He pulls Frodo aside before anyone else can react. In a private parlor upstairs, away from prying eyes and ears, Strider confronts Frodo about what just happened. He knows that Frodo's disappearing act was no mere illusion. It was the power of the ring, and that means the hobbits are in mortal danger. Strider clearly knows far more than he initially lets on. He warns that the ring wraiths are drawn whenever the ring is used. By putting it on in public, Frodo has essentially sent up a signal flare telling the enemy exactly where to find them. He chastises Frodo for such a risky move, but also offers his protection. When Frodo asks what he wants, suspicious of this stranger's motives, Strider reveals something that changes everything. He knows Gandalf and was expecting to find the hobbits here. Strider tells them his real name is Aragorn, son of Arathorn, and he's a friend of the wizard. Seeing no alternative and sensing the ranger's honesty, Frodo accepts Strider's help. What choice does he have? Gandalf isn't here, and they're completely out of their depth. That same night, the consequences of Frodo's mistake come home to roost. The Nazgûl arrive in Bree, drawn by the ring's use like moths to a flame. Under cover of darkness, a group of black riders creeps into the village. These aren't the kind of visitors that Bree's gatekeeper would willingly let inside. The ring wraiths move through the streets like living nightmares. They head straight for the prancing pony, knowing their target is inside. They break into the hobbit's room at the inn, ready to claim the ring and kill anyone who stands in their way. Their enchanted blades are drawn, sharp enough to cut through both flesh and spirit. But the beds are empty. Thanks to Strider's foresight, the hobbits had secretly moved out of their assigned rooms. They're staying with the ranger, hidden from sight and hopefully from detection. The Nazgûl, seeing forms in the beds, attack with savage fury. They stab the shapes to shreds with their terrible weapons. Feathers fly everywhere as pillows are torn apart by blades meant for living flesh. They've been deceived by simple bedding. Frustrated beyond measure, the Nazgûl screech into the night. Their inhuman cries spread terror through Bree as sleeping villagers wake to the sound of pure evil expressing its rage. Strider has narrowly saved Frodo and his companions from assassination. His quick thinking and knowledge of the enemy's methods kept them alive when seconds mattered. But he knows the riders will soon realize their mistake. When they discover they've been attacking pillows instead of hobbits, they'll start searching every building in Bree. Strider makes the decision to lead the hobbits out of town immediately. They'll take hidden paths that avoid main roads, staying ahead of the pursuit that's sure to follow. At first light, they depart Bree with Strider as their guide. The hobbits now trust his leadership completely. This mysterious ranger has already saved their lives once, and they have no choice but to follow him into the wild. Behind them, Bree wakes to a morning filled with fear and strange stories about black riders and vanishing hobbits. The enemy has been here, and everyone knows it. Ahead lies the wilderness, where Strider will try to keep his charges alive long enough to reach safety. The journey to Rivendell has become a deadly game of cat and mouse with the most dangerous hunters in Middle-earth. A single cooking fire was about to doom them all. What should have been a safe camp became the site of the deadliest encounter the hobbits had ever faced. Strider leads the four hobbits eastward into the wilds, staying far from any main roads. These aren't the comfortable paths of the Shire anymore. This is dangerous country where every shadow might hide enemies. They trek through the Midgewater marshes, a miserable swamp where clouds of biting midges torment them day and night. The tiny insects get into everything, making sleep impossible and travel a constant misery. Despite the hardship and grumbling from the hobbits about skipping second breakfast, Strider presses on at great pace. He knows the Nazgûl are still hunting them, and speed is their only advantage. Along the way, the ranger's knowledge of the wilderness becomes clear. He finds safe camp spots that offer protection from both weather and prying eyes. He even teaches the hobbits bits of lore about the lands they're crossing. One night, as they travel under the stars, Strider sings the tale of Beren and Luthien. It's a story about great love between a mortal man and an elf maiden, hinting at his own complicated love story that the hobbits don't yet understand. The journey is tiring and tense. Every member of the group knows the Nazgûl are still pursuing them. The enemy doesn't give up, and they never stop hunting. After nearly a fortnight of travel on foot, they reach Weathertop on October 6th. This ancient watchtower of Amon sits on a hill, its ruined stones reaching toward the sky like broken teeth. From the summit, Strider hopes to spot signs of Gandalf or find a safe route forward. The view from the top shows miles of empty country in every direction. They do find evidence that Gandalf passed this way. A rock bears a secret rune that only the wizard would leave. There are also scorched remains scattered around the ruins, signs of some terrible battle. What they don't know is that Gandalf was attacked here by the Nazgûl days earlier. The flash fire on Weathertop marked where the wizard fought for his life against multiple ring wraiths before escaping. As night falls, the group makes camp a little way down from the summit among some old ruins. The stones offer shelter from wind and help hide their presence from anyone watching the road below. Strider gives them a crucial warning. Keep the fire low. Light travels far in this empty country, and enemies are still hunting them. But while Strider is scouting the area, the hobbits make a terrible mistake. Cold and hungry after their long journey, they light a small blaze to cook their food. To them, it seems like a reasonable decision. The fire is small, and they're hidden among the ruins. What harm could it do? That tiny flame gives away their position completely. That night, the Nazgûl strike with deadly precision. 5 black-robed ring wraiths silently encircle the camp in the ruined watchtower. They move like living shadows, making no sound as they close the trap around their prey. Frodo and his friends see the eerie pale gleam of swords as the Nazgûl draw their enchanted blades. These weapons can kill both body and spirit, leaving nothing behind but empty shells. The hobbits back against a broken wall as the ring wraiths close in. There's nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. The enemy has found them at last. Frodo feels terror beyond anything he's ever experienced. An otherworldly compulsion overwhelms his rational mind. In panic and desperation, he puts on the ring. Instantly, the world shifts to the wraith world around him. Now Frodo can see the ring wraiths clearly for what they truly are. These aren't just cloaked figures on horseback. They're pale, kingly figures wearing ancient crowns, their eyes glowing with supernatural malice. The chief of the Nazgûl steps forward. This is the Witch King of Angmar, the most powerful of all the ring wraiths. In his hand gleams a cursed Morgul blade, forged in the depths of Mordor for one purpose. The Witch King stabs Frodo in the shoulder with the terrible weapon. Frodo screams in agony and drops to the ground. Pain like nothing he's ever felt shoots through his body. This isn't just a physical wound. The blade carries evil that begins poisoning his very soul. At that moment, Strider returns from his scouting and sees the attack in progress. The ranger rushes into the ring of wraiths, brandishing flaming torches and his sword. Fire is one of the few things the Nazgûl fear, and Strider uses it as both weapon and shield. A fierce skirmish erupts in the dark ruins. Strider fights with desperate courage, swinging burning brands at creatures that should be impossible to fight. He manages to set some of their black cloaks ablaze, forcing them back. Under his assault, the ring wraiths withdraw into the night. But they haven't been defeated, just driven off temporarily. They'll be back when conditions favor them again. The immediate danger is past, but Frodo is gravely wounded. Strider examines the injury and discovers something that chills him to the bone. The tip of the Morgul blade broke off in Frodo's flesh. The metal is working its way toward his heart like a splinter of pure evil. This is a Morgul wound, the deadliest injury the servants of darkness can inflict. If not treated in time, Frodo will become a wraith under the Witch King's control. His body will live, but his spirit will belong to the enemy forever. Strider finds Frodo pale and shivering, on the brink of succumbing to the evil enchantment. The hobbit's life is slipping away with every passing minute. Sam and the others are distraught, watching their friend suffer from a wound they can't understand or heal. They've never seen anything like this in the peaceful Shire. Strider immediately takes charge of the crisis. He applies Athelas, an herb called Kingsfoil, to slow the poison's spread. It's not a cure, just a way to buy precious time. He knows Frodo needs elvish medicine to survive this injury. The healing arts of Rivendell are the only thing that can remove the Morgul blade's evil and save Frodo's spirit from corruption. They must reach Rivendell as soon as possible. Every hour of delay brings Frodo closer to becoming something inhuman. The attack at Weathertop has changed everything. What started as a journey to seek counsel has become a desperate race against time. Frodo carries two burdens now: the ring that the enemy wants, and a wound that will kill him if help doesn't come soon. Strider prepares to push harder than ever before. They have to move fast, and they have to avoid another confrontation with the Nazgûl. Next time, the ring wraiths might not withdraw so easily. Time was running out faster than anyone could travel. What started as a desperate journey for help became the most crucial race in Middle-earth history. Frodo's condition worsens with every mile as Strider and the hobbits push toward Rivendell. The Morgul wound is killing him slowly but surely. He's pale, barely conscious, and chilled as if death itself is creeping through his veins. The poison from the Witch King's blade spreads closer to his heart with each passing hour. Strider's herb treatments can only slow the corruption, not stop it. Without proper healing, Frodo will become a wraith under enemy control. On October 20th, near the Trollshaws west of Rivendell, salvation appears when they least expect it. The group encounters Arwen, daughter of Lord Elrond of Rivendell. This elf maiden has been searching for them on her father's behalf, following reports of hobbits in danger. Her presence brings light to their darkest moment. Arwen is also Strider's beloved, though the hobbits don't understand their connection yet. She takes one look at Frodo's state and immediately grasps how serious the situation has become. She offers a solution that could save his life. She'll take Frodo to Rivendell on her horse because she's the fastest rider in the area. Every second counts now, and speed is their only hope. Strider is reluctant to let her take such a risk. The Nazgûl are still hunting them, and putting Arwen in danger goes against every protective instinct he has. But she insists that getting Frodo to safety in time is worth any risk. They place the dying hobbit on Arwen's white horse Asphalloth, and she takes the reins. The moment they transfer Frodo, Arwen becomes the most important person in Middle-earth. She's carrying the ring and its bearer toward the only place that can save them both. Arwen gallops off with Frodo, speeding through woods and across streams. Her destination is the ford of Bruinen, the last river boundary before Rivendell. Once they cross that water, they'll be under the protection of Elrond's power. But the enemy realizes what's happening almost immediately. The Nazgûl sense that the ring is on the move and give chase with renewed fury. All 9 ring wraiths are now gathered together, creating the most terrifying pursuit force ever assembled. The sight is both breathtaking and horrifying. Arwen rides hunched over Frodo, encouraging him to hold on as 9 black-cloaked riders on massive steeds thunder behind them. The sound of hoofbeats fills the air like approaching doom. Frodo drifts in and out of consciousness, seeing blurry visions of the dark riders gaining ground. The Morgul wound is pulling him toward the Wraith world where the Nazgûl exist. He's becoming more like them with every minute that passes. Arwen pushes Asphalloth to its absolute limits. The horse responds to her urgency, running faster than any normal mount could sustain. This isn't just a race anymore. It's a battle between the forces of light and darkness played out at full gallop. The Nazgûl shriek behind them, their inhuman cries echoing across the landscape. They're closing the gap as Arwen approaches the Bruinen River. The finish line is visible, but so are the enemies bearing down on them. Arwen reaches the ford of Bruinen just ahead of the 9 ring wraiths. She dashes across the shallow water to the far bank, carrying Frodo to safety by the narrowest possible margin. With Frodo pale and nearly unconscious before her, Arwen turns to face the pursuing wraiths. This is her moment to make a stand. The ring-wraiths halt midstream and demand she hand over the halfling. Their voices carry the authority of ancient kings, twisted by centuries of servitude to evil. They expect obedience from all living things. Arwen refuses their demand without hesitation. Instead, she invokes her elf lineage and the power of her father Elrond, the master of Rivendell. She begins chanting a spell in the ancient elvish tongue, calling upon forces older than human memory. In an instant, the river Bruinen responds to her command. The water rises in a magical flood that defies all natural law. Enormous waves take the shape of galloping white horses as they rush down upon the Black Riders. The river itself has become a weapon against the forces of darkness. The wall of water engulfs the Nazgûl and their horses, smashing them with the force of an avalanche. They're swept away in a foaming torrent that carries them far downstream. This spectacular flood destroys the ring-wraith's physical forms completely. The enchantment that Elrond arranged and Arwen enhanced forces their spirits to dissipate and return to Mordor to regroup. It will be some time before they can take shape again. With the immediate threat defeated, Arwen cradles Frodo as he finally succumbs to the Morgul wound's effects. The poison has nearly reached his heart, and he's slipping away despite their successful escape. She whispers to him desperately, begging him not to give in. Frodo's vision fades to black just as the floodwaters continue to rage around them. Arwen quickly rides the last miles to Rivendell, carrying her precious cargo through the gates of the Hidden Valley. Thanks to her bravery and incredible speed, Frodo arrives in time for the healing he desperately needs. Lord Elrond, a mighty elf lord and the most skilled healer in Middle-earth, tends to Frodo immediately. With delicate precision, he removes the shard of the Morgul blade from Frodo's shoulder before it can pierce his heart. The surgery succeeds. Frodo survives the extraction of the evil metal, though he'll carry the spiritual scars of the wound for the rest of his life. Days later, Frodo wakes in the safe haven of Rivendell. The flight to the ford has accomplished everything it needed to. He's alive. The ring has reached safety, and the Nazgûl have been temporarily neutralized. Arwen's intervention saved more than just Frodo's life. She ensured that the ring reached Rivendell beyond the enemy's immediate grasp. Without her courage and skill, the quest would have ended before it truly began. The most dangerous part of their journey is behind them now. Frodo can heal in peace, while the wise decide what to do about the burden he carries. The refuge of Rivendell offers time to plan and prepare for whatever comes next. The most important meeting in Middle-earth history was about to begin. 9 representatives would gather to decide the fate of every living thing, and one small hobbit would volunteer for an impossible mission. Frodo awakens in Rivendell after several days of fevered unconsciousness. The Morgul wound nearly killed him, but Elrond's healing saved his life. He finds himself in a comfortable bed in the house of Elrond, restored and free of pain for the first time since Weathertop. To his absolute delight, Gandalf is sitting at his bedside. The wizard warmly greets Frodo, praising his bravery on the dangerous journey. Frodo has so many questions, starting with why Gandalf never met them in Bree as promised. Gandalf explains his absence with a story that sounds impossible. He was held captive by Saruman, but managed to escape from the top of Orthanc. The rescue came from an unexpected source. Gwaihir the Great Eagle carried him to freedom, lifting him off the tower and flying him away from Isengard. After his escape, Gandalf came to Rivendell as fast as possible, hoping to find the hobbits alive and safe. Frodo is overjoyed to be reunited with his old friend, but an even sweeter reunion awaits him. Bilbo has been living in Rivendell since leaving the Shire. The elderly hobbit is relieved beyond words that Frodo survived the journey. Their meeting is tender and emotional, filled with the joy of family finding each other again after danger and separation. But personal reunions must wait. A greater crisis demands immediate attention. On October 25th, Elrond convenes a council that brings together representatives of all the major free peoples of Middle-earth. The fate of the One Ring must be decided, and everyone has a stake in the outcome. The gathering is like nothing the hobbits have ever seen. Elves attend, including Elrond himself, his advisor Erestor, and Legolas Greenleaf, Prince of the Wood Elves of Mirkwood. The dwarves send Gimli, son of Glóin, representing the Lonely Mountain. Men are represented by Boromir, son of the Steward of Gondor, and Aragorn. Frodo and Sam attend as the ring-bearers, along with Gandalf. During the council, troubling news emerges from multiple sources. Boromir relates a disturbing dream that came to Gondor. The vision spoke of the sword that was broken and mentioned a halfling. The dream led him to Rivendell, though he didn't understand its meaning when he started his journey. Legolas brings even worse news. Gollum, whom the elves of Mirkwood were holding prisoner, has escaped. The creature that once possessed the ring is loose again, and nobody knows where he's gone. The biggest revelation comes when Strider's true identity is revealed. The scruffy ranger is actually Aragorn, heir of Isildur and rightful king of Gondor. This news shocks Boromir, who realizes that the royal line he thought was extinct actually survives in the man who's been guiding the hobbits. The council then turns to the central question that brought them all together. What should be done with the One Ring? Boromir argues that the ring could be used as a weapon against Sauron in defense of Gondor. His people are under constant attack, and they need every advantage they can get. Why not turn the enemy's greatest weapon against him? Gandalf and Elrond immediately reject this idea. The ring corrupts anyone who tries to wield it, regardless of their good intentions. It answers only to Sauron and will eventually betray any other user. No one can master it except its creator. Other suggestions arise during the debate. Some propose hiding the ring where Sauron could never find it. Others suggest throwing it into the sea where it would be lost forever. Elrond shoots down these ideas one by one. No hiding place would last long against Sauron's growing power. He has servants everywhere, and his reach extends across land and sea. Even the protected realm of Rivendell can't shelter the ring indefinitely. If it stays here, the enemy will eventually strike this haven. The only viable solution is the most dangerous one imaginable. The ring must be destroyed by casting it back into the fires of Mount Doom in Mordor, where it was originally forged. Only there, in the cracks of Doom, can the One Ring be unmade. This pronouncement silences the entire council. Everyone understands what such a journey would mean. Mount Doom sits in the heart of Mordor, surrounded by Sauron's armies and defenses. Getting there would be nearly suicidal. Getting back would be impossible. A long pause follows as the weight of this task settles on everyone present. Then Frodo does something that shocks them all. The small hobbit steps forward with quiet determination. Moved by a sense of duty and perhaps guided by fate itself, he speaks words that change everything. He will take the ring to Mordor, though he doesn't know the way. This brave offer from such an unlikely hero galvanizes the entire council. If a hobbit can find the courage for this mission, how can anyone else refuse to help? Gandalf immediately volunteers to accompany Frodo on the quest. The wizard's support gives the mission credibility and hope. Aragorn pledges his sword to Frodo's cause, acknowledging both his heritage and his responsibility to fight the darkness threatening his future kingdom. Legolas and Gimli also step forward, despite the traditional grudge between elves and dwarves. They set aside old differences to face a threat that endangers everyone. Boromir joins as well, though he remains skeptical about the plan. He sees this quest as tied to the fate of his people and believes he must be part of it. Frodo's own hobbit companions refuse to be left behind. Sam has never abandoned Frodo's side and insists on coming. Suddenly, Merry and Pippin burst into the council chamber, having been eavesdropping outside. They refuse to be excluded from the greatest adventure of their lifetimes. In the end, a company of 9 walkers assembles to counterbalance the 9 Nazgûl. They're formally dubbed the Fellowship of the Ring, consisting of Frodo, Sam, Merry, Pippin, Gandalf, Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, and Boromir. This diverse group represents all the free folk of Middle-earth united in common cause. Their task is to aid Frodo in achieving what no one else can accomplish: the destruction of Sauron's ring. Before the Fellowship departs, important preparations must be made. Bilbo gives Frodo precious gifts that will help protect him on the journey ahead. He passes on his old elven short sword, Sting, which glows blue whenever orcs are near. He also gives Frodo a lightweight coat of mithril mail, an incredibly strong chainmail shirt. The value of this mithril armor exceeds that of the entire Shire. Frodo is overwhelmed by the generosity and significance of these gifts. They represent his uncle's love and the accumulated wisdom of long experience. Elrond makes his own contribution to the quest. The shards of Narsil, the sword that Isildur used to cut the ring from Sauron's hand, have been kept in Rivendell for centuries. The Elf Lord promises to have the blade reforged for Aragorn as Andúril, symbolizing the return of the king. After rest and final council, the Fellowship prepares for departure. Elrond gives Frodo one last piece of crucial advice. The Fellowship will protect him as far as possible, but ultimately carrying the ring to Mount Doom is a burden he must bear alone. With heavy resolve but united purpose, the 9 companions depart Rivendell on December 25th, 3018. Behind them lies the last safe haven they'll see for a long time. Ahead waits a journey that will test every one of them beyond their limits. The quest to destroy the One Ring has officially begun. The greatest journey in Middle-earth history began with hope and ended with the companions trapped in the darkness beneath the mountains. Sometimes the safest path leads to the most dangerous place. The Fellowship leaves Rivendell on foot, embarking on the long journey to Mordor. 9 companions set out southward under crisp winter skies, their spirits surprisingly good despite the impossible task ahead of them. They travel through the rugged hills of Eregion, also known as Hollin. The company covers leagues of ground steadily, but everyone stays alert. The enemy's forces are hunting for them, and danger could emerge from any direction. After weeks of travel, they approach the towering Misty Mountains. These peaks stretch across their path like an enormous wall, forcing them to make a crucial choice about their route. Their plan is to cross the mountains via the high pass of Caradhras, the Red Horn Pass. This route avoids two dangerous alternatives. The Gap of Rohan would take them too close to Isengard and Saruman's forces. The Mines of Moria hold dangers that Gandalf doesn't want to face. Gimli mentions Moria as an option, but the wizard remains wary. Something about those ancient dwarven halls troubles him deeply. The Fellowship attempts the Redhorn Pass over Caradhras in the dead of winter. Almost immediately, they realize they've made a terrible mistake. A bitter blizzard strikes them with unnatural fury. Heavy snow falls far beyond what normal winter weather could produce. The storm feels wrong, too focused and too intense to be natural. It becomes clear that Saruman is using his sorcery to sabotage them from afar. At Isengard, the White Wizard stands atop Orthanc chanting spells while the Fellowship struggles against his magical storm. The higher they climb, the worse conditions become. They trudge through waist-deep snow that gets deeper with every step. The wind howls around them like a living thing trying to drive them back. An avalanche of snow and rock nearly buries them completely. Only the quick actions of Aragorn and Gandalf save the company from being entombed on the mountainside. After a harrowing night trapped on a mountain ledge with snow up to their shoulders, they're forced to admit defeat. Caradhras will not let them pass. Saruman's magic-infused storm has made the route completely impassable. Freezing and frustrated, the group turns back. They barely escape the mountain before its snow can entomb them forever. Retreating from Caradhras, the Fellowship faces a choice they hoped to avoid. With the high pass blocked, they need an alternate route through the mountains. Gimli strongly advocates going under the mountains through the Mines of Moria. This ancient dwarf realm of Khazad-dûm once housed thriving communities of his people. Surely they could find passage through the old halls. Gandalf remains deeply uneasy about this plan. Boromir notices the wizard's reluctance and points out that he seems to fear going into those mines. There's something about Moria that troubles Gandalf more than he's willing to admit. The dwarven colony there hasn't been heard from in years, and that silence carries ominous implications. What happened to all those dwarves? Why have they stopped communicating with the outside world? But their options are running out fast. Wargs, evil wolves in service to the enemy, howl in the distance. The creatures are closing in on their position. With Caradhras blocked and enemies approaching, they need shelter soon. When Frodo as ring-bearer voices support for attempting Moria, Gandalf reluctantly agrees. They'll try the underground route despite his misgivings. By the next day, the Fellowship makes their way to the hidden west gate of Moria. The entrance lies by a dark, stagnant lake on the east side of Hollin. The water looks wrong somehow, too still and too dark. At nightfall, they find the cliff face that conceals the doors of Durin, the western entrance to the ancient realm. These doors have been sealed for years, hidden from casual discovery. Moonlight reveals magical patterns glowing on the stone surface. Lines of Ithilden, a substance that reflects only starlight and moonlight, form an inscription in Elvish script. Gandalf reads the ancient writing aloud. The doors bear the words of Durin himself, Lord of Moria. The inscription says, "Speak, friend, and enter," seemingly offering a simple invitation. But Gandalf recognizes this as a riddle that requires the right password. He tries various words and phrases, growing frustrated as nothing works. The doors remain stubbornly closed despite his efforts. It's Frodo who finally guesses the trick. The riddle isn't asking for a complex password or magical phrase. It's asking for the Elvish word for friend itself. When Gandalf speaks the word melon, the stone doors groan and swing open with surprising ease. They reveal a passage leading into complete darkness. The air that flows out smells stale and ominous, carrying hints of things better left undisturbed. As the Fellowship steps toward the open gateway, the dark lake behind them suddenly comes alive. Without warning, a gigantic creature attacks from the depths. The Watcher in the water has been lurking beneath the surface, waiting for prey to come within reach. A long, pale tentacle shoots out and wraps around Frodo's ankle. The monster hoists him upside down, trying to drag him into the lake. Multiple slimy arms writhe out of the water, grabbing at the other members of the company. Sam strikes desperately at the coils holding his master. Boromir and Aragorn hack at the creature with their swords, trying to cut Frodo free before the monster can pull him underwater. Their combined efforts succeed in freeing Frodo, but the Watcher isn't finished with them. The enraged creature slams its many tentacles against the stone gates with tremendous force. The impact causes a catastrophic collapse. The doors crash down, and an avalanche of rocks follows. The entrance to Moria seals completely, cutting off any possibility of retreat. In the eerie silence that follows the collapse, the company finds themselves trapped in total darkness. They've escaped the Watcher, but at a terrible cost. Gandalf lights his staff with a soft blue glow, revealing their new reality. They stand in a vast, dusty entrance hall that stretches away into shadows. The air tastes of age and abandonment. They've entered the dark, abandoned realm of Moria, with no way back to the surface. Whatever lies ahead in these ancient halls, they'll have to face it together. The Fellowship that entered these mountains with hope and determination now finds itself trapped in the depths. Their journey through Moria is about to begin, whether they're ready for it or not. The Fellowship was about to discover what happened to an entire civilization. Deep in Moria's halls, they would find answers they never wanted and face enemies that should have stayed buried. The Fellowship ventures forward under Gandalf's guiding light through the eerie silence of Moria. Only the echo of their footsteps breaks the oppressive quiet. They pass towering pillars and long-forgotten guard rooms carved directly from living rock. Gimli walks with mixed emotions. These mines were once the glory of his people, a thriving underground kingdom that brought wealth and honor to all dwarves. His cousin Balin led a group here to reclaim Moria about 30 years ago, hoping to restore the ancient realm to its former greatness. As they progress deeper into the halls, disturbing signs become impossible to ignore. Broken shields lie scattered on the floor. Old orc arrow shafts stick out from walls and doorways. Most troubling of all, no living dwarves come to greet them. Something terrible happened in these halls. The silence tells a story that nobody wants to hear. Gandalf follows his memory and some ancient markings, leading them toward the main halls where answers might be found. The company eventually enters an enormous space that takes their breath away. This is Dwarodelf, the ancient dwarf city that once housed thousands of Gimli's people. Even in the darkness, they can sense how massive this hall truly is. Rows of colossal pillars vanish into the gloom above them. The architecture speaks of a civilization that built for eternity, creating spaces that could house entire communities underground. Gimli pauses in awe and grief, overwhelmed by seeing his people's greatest achievement reduced to empty stone. He speaks a lament that captures everything he's feeling. The great realm and dwarf city of Dwarodelf has become nothing but a dark, dank cavern. Ahead, they spot soft, natural light filtering down through a shaft. Following this beacon of hope, they make their way toward what might be the answers they're seeking. The light leads them to a chamber that tells the final chapter of Moria's story. Skeletal remains litter the floor alongside broken weapons and shattered armor. The signs of a desperate last stand are everywhere. In the center sits a stone sarcophagus bearing an inscription in dwarvish runes. Gimli reads the words that break his heart completely. Balin, son of Fundin, Lord of Moria. His cousin is dead. The leader who brought hope back to this ancient realm lies entombed in the very halls he sought to reclaim. Gimli falls to his knees in grief, mourning both personal loss and the death of his people's dreams. The dwarves of Moria are all dead. The colony that came to rebuild has been wiped out completely. Gandalf gently takes an ancient, dust-covered book from a corpse that's been clinging to it for years. This is the Book of Mazabul, the dwarves' own chronicle of their final days. The answers they seek lie written in these pages. By the light of his staff, Gandalf reads the last entries aloud. The journal tells a story of invasion and slaughter. Orcs poured into the halls, overwhelming the dwarven defenders despite their skill and courage. The final entry sends chills through everyone present. The surviving dwarves wrote their last words as enemies closed in around them. They could not get out. The orcs had taken the bridge and the second hall. And then comes the most ominous line of all. Drums in the deep, they are coming. As if the ancient words have power to summon what they describe, a deep drumming sound suddenly reverberates through the halls around them. Doom, doom. The rhythm echoes from somewhere in the darkness. The Fellowship goes on high alert, realizing they're no longer alone in these tombs. The situation gets worse when they realize that Pippin has made a terrible mistake. Moments earlier, the curious hobbit accidentally knocked a skeleton down a well, creating a loud clatter that echoed through the silent halls. Something heard that noise and is coming to investigate. The drums grow louder and more insistent. Harsh horn calls echo in the distance, answering the drum beat with promises of violence. These aren't the sounds of any natural creatures. This is the music of war. Gandalf stands with alarm written across his face. The wizard knows exactly what's approaching, and the knowledge terrifies him. He gives the warning that changes everything. The chamber erupts into chaos as enemies pour in from every direction. Chittering orcs with curved swords and black arrows swarm through the doorways. The Fellowship forms a defensive circle in the tomb chamber, backs together as they face threats from all sides. Then something even worse forces its way into the battle. A massive cave troll, a hulking gray-skinned monster dragged here by the orcs on heavy chains. The creature fills the chamber with its bulk and rage. A fierce battle erupts in the confined space. Aragorn and Boromir hack at waves of orc soldiers trying to break through the doorway. Legolas sends arrows flying with deadly accuracy, each shot finding its mark. Gandalf uses flashes of magic to stagger enemies and protect his companions. The cave troll becomes the center of mayhem. It smashes everything within reach, using a massive club, turning ancient stone to rubble. Sam barely survives when the monster's attack brings down a pillar, escaping only by diving under the falling stone. The troll turns its attention to Frodo, seeing the small figure as easy prey. Frodo tries desperately to scramble away, but there's nowhere to hide in the cramped chamber. In a heart-stopping moment, the troll corners Frodo against the wall. It drives its spear forward, impaling the hobbit through the chest. Frodo cries out and collapses, apparently mortally wounded. Merry and Pippin go wild with rage at seeing their friend struck down. They leap onto the troll's back, stabbing at it with their small swords in a desperate attempt to distract the monster from finishing Frodo. The combined efforts of the entire fellowship finally bring the cave troll down. Legolas delivers the killing blow, sending an arrow deep into the creature's throat. It collapses with a thunderous crash that shakes the chamber. The remaining orcs flee as their greatest weapon dies, leaving the fellowship alone with their wounded. Sam rushes to Frodo's side, sobbing as he believes his master has been killed. The spear went right through his chest. No one could survive such a wound. But miraculously, Frodo sits up, gasping for air, but very much alive. Underneath his shirt gleams the mithril mail that Bilbo gave him in Rivendell. The troll's spear point was stopped by the incredibly strong armor. Frodo is badly winded and bruised, but the precious metal saved his life with only a small puncture through the mail's rings. The others stare in astonishment at the armor that protected him. Gandalf marvels at the gift that proved more valuable than anyone could have imagined. Mithril is worth more than the entire Shire, and it just saved the most important person in Middle-earth. Their relief is cut short by the return of the ominous drumbeat. Doom, doom. The sound is even louder now, closer and more threatening than before. Countless orc voices approach from outside the chamber. The enemies have regrouped in much greater numbers, and something else moves with them. A sound like a great fire roaring grows stronger with each passing moment. Gandalf's face falls as he recognizes what that sound means. They've awakened something far worse than orcs in the depths of Moria. He gives the order that will save their lives if they're fast enough and lucky enough to escape what's coming. The Fellowship flees the chamber of Balin's tomb as a massive horde of orcs swarms into the adjacent halls. The drums pound like a heartbeat of war as they race through the darkness, hoping to outrun the ancient evil that's stirring in the depths below them. The most powerful wizard in Middle-earth was about to face an enemy from the beginning of time. What happened on a narrow stone bridge would change the fate of the Fellowship forever. The Fellowship sprints through Moria's halls with scores of orcs racing behind them. The flicker of torchlight and glitter of curved scimitars grows closer with every step. They're running for their lives through passages that have become a death trap. Gandalf leads them down toward the lower levels, desperately seeking the east gate that might offer escape. They descend a crumbling spiral staircase while orc archers fire arrows from gaps in the stonework. Legolas covers their retreat, picking off the enemy shooters with deadly precision. His bow never misses as he protects his fleeing companions from the arrows whistling around them. Suddenly, everything changes. On a stair landing, an overwhelming presence makes itself known from somewhere below. A baleful red glow rises from the depths, bringing with it an intense heat that turns the cold air of Moria into something that burns the lungs. A monstrous shadow moves in the firelight, something huge beyond imagination. Legolas and Gandalf exchange alarmed glances. They both recognize what's approaching, and the knowledge fills them with terror, unlike anything they've felt before. As the Fellowship runs out onto a vast underground bridge chamber, the source of that terrible glow reveals itself. With a roar that shakes the very foundations of the mountain, a Balrog strides into view behind the fleeing Orc legion. This is a towering demon, wreathed in flame and shadow, a relic from the ancient world that has lurked in Moria's deepest places for thousands of years. This is Durin's Bane, the creature that destroyed the greatest dwarven realm ever built. The orcs that were chasing the Fellowship suddenly shriek and scatter in absolute terror. Even these creatures of darkness fear what has awakened in the depths. Now the demon seeks new prey, and the Fellowship stands directly in its path. The Balrog's figure is manlike but gigantic, standing taller than any building. Flames flow from its body like a mane of fire. In one hand it carries a whip that burns like lightning. In the other, a sword that looks like a stabbing tongue of pure flame. Its very presence chills the heart with despair that goes beyond fear. This is evil from the beginning of the world, older than kingdoms and more powerful than armies. Gandalf mutters the word that confirms their worst nightmare, a Balrog. The thing that legends warned about, but nobody hoped to ever see. Aragorn and Boromir are stunned into silence. Legolas freezes in terror at the sight of an enemy beyond anything they've ever faced. This isn't something you fight. This is something you run from if you want to live. The company reaches the bridge of Khazad-dûm, a narrow stone span that crosses a chasm so deep its bottom disappears into darkness. This bridge offers the only way across to the exit tunnel that leads outside. It's also the perfect place for a last stand. Gandalf turns to face the pursuing Balrog while the others scramble across the narrow bridge. Aragorn refuses to leave the wizard behind, but Gandalf insists that he lead the others to safety. One by one, the Fellowship dashes over the perilously narrow stone span. Below them yawns an abyss that reaches down to the very roots of the mountain. Gandalf the Grey stands alone in the middle of the bridge, a small figure facing an enemy the size of a building. He raises his staff and sword, preparing for a confrontation that seems impossible to survive. As the Balrog steps onto the bridge, Gandalf speaks words that ring with power and authority. He declares that the demon cannot pass. He identifies himself as a servant of the secret fire, wielder of the flame of Anor. He commands the creature to go back to the shadow where it belongs. The Balrog responds with a roar of rage and strikes with its flaming sword. The weapon should cut through anything in its path, but Gandalf parries the blow with a shield of white light. The demon's sword shatters against the wizard's magical protection. Frustrated, the Balrog lashes out with its fiery whip. Gandalf braces himself for the attack, knowing this moment will determine everything. Summoning all his strength, Gandalf raises his staff high above his head and brings it crashing down onto the bridge. His voice echoes through the chamber with words that shake the mountain itself. The ancient stone bridge collapses beneath the Balrog with a thunderous crack that sounds like the end of the world. The demon tumbles backward into the abyss, seemingly defeated as it falls into the darkness below. For a moment, it looks like Gandalf has achieved the impossible. He's defeated a creature of shadow and flame through sheer force of will and magical power. The Fellowship watches from the other side in stunned relief. They've witnessed something that will be remembered forever. A wizard standing alone against ultimate evil and emerging victorious. But their relief turns to horror in an instant. The Balrog's long whip snaps upward from the chasm like a striking serpent. It wraps around Gandalf's ankles and pulls him toward the edge with irresistible force. Gandalf clings to the broken bridge for a moment, hanging over the abyss that has swallowed his enemy. He looks at his friends one last time and speaks words that will haunt them forever. Then the whip yanks him down into the darkness. Gandalf lets go and plunges after the Balrog, disappearing into the depths below. The wizard who guided them, protected them, and taught them is gone. Frodo screams in horror as he watches his friend fall. The others stand frozen in shock, unable to process what they've just witnessed. Aragorn forces himself to act despite his grief. He commands Legolas to get the others moving. Orcs are already beginning to regroup on the far side of the chamber, and staying here means death for all of them. The Fellowship flees from the bridge into a tunnel that leads toward daylight. Their hearts are broken, but their legs carry them away from the realm of shadow where they've lost so much. They burst out into the Dimril Dale on the eastern side of the Misty Mountains. After days in the darkness of Moria, the open sky feels like a blessing, but the joy of escape is overwhelmed by their grief. On a rocky slope outside Moria's east gate, the survivors collapse in sorrow. Gimli weeps openly for the wizard who became a friend. Frodo cries for the loss of his guide and protector. Even Boromir shows his mourning openly. The loss of Gandalf feels like a crushing blow to their mission. Their guide is gone. Their most powerful protector has fallen into darkness. How can they continue without him? After a brief pause, to honor their fallen friend, Aragorn pushes them onward. They must reach safety before orcs pour out of Moria, seeking revenge. With heavy hearts, the Fellowship trudges away from the gates where they lost so much. Ahead lies the wooded realm of Lothlórien, where they hope to find refuge and healing. Behind them, Moria's darkness swallows the echo of their footsteps. Gandalf's sacrifice has bought them their freedom, but the cost feels almost too great to bear. The Fellowship was about to enter a realm where time moved differently, and the most powerful being in Middle-earth would test their hearts. What they discovered about themselves would be more dangerous than any enemy they had faced. The grieving Fellowship heads south into the enchanted forests of Lothlórien, seeking refuge after their devastating loss. These are the lands of the elves, where golden malin trees create a canopy that glows with otherworldly light, even at night. As they venture into the forest, arrows suddenly surround them. The Fellowship finds themselves intercepted by Lórien's border guards, led by an elf named Haldir. These aren't friendly greetings. They're potential threats being evaluated by warriors who don't trust strangers. The elves speak sternly, particularly wary of Gimli the dwarf. Relations between elves and dwarves have been strained for centuries, and old grudges die hard even in times of crisis. Aragorn pleads in the Sindarin tongue for safe passage, invoking the name of Galadriel. The mention of their lady's name changes everything. Hearing this, the elves relent and agree to escort them deeper into the realm. As a security measure, they blindfold the Fellowship before leading them through the hidden paths. Legolas is awestruck to be back under the golden Melian trees of his kindred. This feels like coming home after a terrible journey through darkness. Eventually, Haldir and his guards guide the Fellowship into Caras Galadhon, the heart of Lothlórien. Here, among the great trees and platforms built into their branches, they can finally rest in safety. The Fellowship is brought before the rulers of this realm. Galadriel and Celeborn, the Lady and Lord of Lothlórien, receive them with grace and power that takes their breath away. Galadriel is a mighty elf queen. ancient beyond human understanding and wise beyond measure. She bears one of the 3 elven rings, which gives her power that rivals any force in Middle-earth. She greets each member of the company with piercing insight. Her eyes seem to look directly into their minds, reading thoughts and motivations that they've tried to keep hidden. It's both comforting and terrifying to be seen so completely. She expresses deep sympathy for the loss of Gandalf, acknowledging that this blow saddens her greatly. The death of the Grey Wizard is a loss felt across all the Free Peoples. Celeborn welcomes them and offers shelter, though he's astonished that a dwarf would be part of such a quest. His initial words toward Gimli are harsh, reflecting old prejudices. But Galadriel gently chides her husband's reaction, fostering understanding between Gimli and the elves. Her wisdom sees beyond ancient grudges to the necessity of unity in dark times. During their meal, something extraordinary happens. Galadriel engages in silent, telepathic communication with each member of the Fellowship. One by one, they feel her gaze and hear her voice in their minds. To some, she offers encouragement. To others, she presents challenges that test their resolve and character. Boromir grows particularly uncomfortable under her penetrating stare. She seems to read the growing conflict in his heart regarding the ring. The temptation that's been building since Rivendell becomes visible to someone with the power to see it. Frodo hears her voice telling him that his mission will claim his life, but also that he is not alone. The words offer both warning and comfort in equal measure. Despite their sadness and weariness from recent losses, the Fellowship finds a sense of ease and healing in this magical realm. Time in Lorien seems to flow differently from the outside world. Nights and days of rest blur together, granting them a reprieve from the constant fear they've carried. One evening, Galadriel invites Frodo and Sam to a secluded glade for a private audience. She shows them something that will change how they see their mission forever. The mirror of Galadriel sits before them, a silver basin filled with water that can reveal visions of past, present, and future. She allows them to gaze into its depths and see what might be. Frodo looks first, and the water ripples, revealing images that shock him to his core. He sees the Shire under oppression, hobbits driven in chains by orcs, Bag End raided and destroyed. The peaceful homeland he's trying to save is shown to him in ruins. He also glimpses something even more terrifying, a fleeting vision of the Eye of Sauron, burning with malice and searching for him across all the lands of Middle-earth. Galadriel explains that the mirror shows things that were, things that are, and some things that have not yet come to pass. These visions might happen, or they might be prevented by the choices people make. Sam sees similar horrors when he looks into the water. Visions of Frodo seemingly dead, and the Shire's complete destruction distress him beyond words. The loyal gardener realizes fully what failure would mean for everything he loves. Frodo now understands the true stakes of his mission. If he fails, not only will Middle-earth fall to darkness, but his own people will suffer terribly for his failure. Moved by fear and awe at what he's seen, Frodo makes an offer that surprises everyone. He tries to give the One Ring to Galadriel, believing she would know better what to do with such a burden. This creates the greatest test Galadriel has ever faced. She imagines herself taking the ring, and the vision triggers a frightening transformation. For a moment, she appears as a dark queen with power beyond imagination. Her voice echoes with authority that could command all living things. "All shall love me and despair," she declares in this vision of what she could become. But in the next heartbeat, she regains control of herself and refuses the ring completely. The temptation passes, and she remains who she has always been. She tells Frodo that she has passed the test. Instead of seizing ultimate power, she will diminish and go into the West, remaining Galadriel rather than becoming a replacement for Sauron. Her refusal of the ring demonstrates the wisdom that makes her one of the greatest beings in Middle-earth. She understands that some forms of power corrupt anyone who wields them, regardless of their intentions. Galadriel then encourages Frodo for the road ahead. She acknowledges that his burden is enormous and that if he fails, no one can foresee what the end will be. But she confirms that he is the ring-bearer appointed for this task. She reminds him that even the smallest person can change the course of the future. Size and strength matter less than courage and determination when facing the darkness. Her warning proves prophetic when she hints that one of his companions will try to take the ring from him. Someone he knows but cannot yet see clearly will be corrupted by its power. Frodo doesn't fully understand this foreshadowing, but the words will return to haunt him later. The stay in Lórien gives Frodo both a glimpse of possible doom and the resolve to prevent it. He's seen what failure looks like, and he's determined to ensure those visions never come to pass. Meanwhile, other members of the Fellowship deal with their own revelations and challenges in this timeless realm. The magical respite offers healing, but it also forces them to confront truths about themselves and their mission that will shape everything that follows. The safe haven of Lothlórien provides exactly what the Fellowship needs: rest for their bodies, healing for their spirits, and wisdom to guide them on the impossible road ahead. The Fellowship was about to receive gifts that would save their lives in ways they couldn't imagine. But as they sailed toward their destiny, an old enemy was already following in their wake. After days of rest and healing in Lothlórien, the time comes for the Fellowship to continue their quest. The magical refuge has restored their spirits, but the mission to destroy the ring cannot wait forever. Galadriel and Celeborn prepare the companions for the next leg of their journey with gifts that will prove more valuable than gold. The elves provide each member with gray-green hooded cloaks that can serve as camouflage, blending with stone and leaf to hide them from enemy eyes. They also receive lembas, the famous elven whey bread. These small cakes pack incredible nutrition into tiny packages. A single bite can fill a grown man's stomach for an entire day. The bread stays fresh for weeks, making it perfect food for a long journey through dangerous lands. Galadriel and Celeborn present the company with boats to travel down the great river Anduin. This route offers the fastest passage south, carrying them toward their destination much quicker than walking would allow. At the river shore, Galadriel personally gives individual gifts to each member of the Fellowship. These aren't random presents, but carefully chosen items that reflect her understanding of each person's character and needs. To Aragorn, she gives a beautifully crafted sheath for his sword and a green elfstone brooch. The gifts acknowledge his royal heritage and the burden of leadership he carries. Boromir receives a golden belt, recognizing his role as a warrior defending his people. Merry and Pippin get smaller silver belts, marking them as valued members of the company despite their youth. Legolas receives a new longbow made by the Galadrim, superior to any weapon he's carried before. The gift honors his skill as an archer, and provides him with a tool worthy of his abilities. To Gimli, she offers something that heals centuries of mistrust between elves and dwarves. The dwarf, who initially was hostile toward elves, has become completely enchanted by Galadriel's beauty and kindness. When she asks what gift he would treasure most, Gimli humbly requests a single strand of her golden hair as a keepsake. The request moves Galadriel deeply, and she gives him 3 strands instead of 1. This act of grace bridges old wounds between their peoples. Sam receives a small box of earth from Galadriel's orchard, containing a seed of a malon tree. The gift speaks to his love of growing things and his connection to the Shire he's left behind. To Frodo, Galadriel gives the most precious gift of all. The Phial of Galadriel is a small crystal bottle that holds the light of the star Erendil. She tells him it will be a light in dark places when all other lights go out. Frodo accepts the gift gratefully, having no idea how vital it will prove in the trials ahead. The phial will become more than just a gift. It will become salvation itself. These parting gifts carry both practical value and deep symbolism. Each member of the Fellowship is honored for their unique role in the quest. Galadriel sees their individual worth and provides what they'll need most. The Fellowship departs Lórien in 3 small elven boats, beginning their journey down the Anduin River. The elves wave goodbye with singing voices as the boats slip away from the golden shore. Over the next several days, the company makes swift progress down the great river. The current carries them south while they avoid detection by staying away from populated areas. They pass through landscapes of stunning beauty and hidden danger. On one side flows the dark Mirkwood forest, though they keep their distance from its shadows. On the other side stretch the green plains of Rohan, far away but visible in the distance. At night, they camp cautiously on the riverbank, always alert for enemies who might be tracking them. One night, Frodo spots something that confirms their worst fears. A distant creature is following them down the river, keeping pace but staying out of direct sight. Gollum has indeed trailed them from Moria, just as Gandalf warned he would. The wretched creature paddles a makeshift log, following the scent of his precious ring across miles of water. Aragorn and Sam also notice their slimy stalker lurking in the shadows. Gollum stays just out of bowshot, and despite their attempts to catch him, he proves too cunning to trap. They keep a wary eye on their persistent follower, knowing he represents constant danger. Gollum remains a furtive shadow, always there, but never close enough to confront directly. As they travel further south, the sense of danger increases from multiple directions. Legolas spots flying Nazgûl overhead, the ring-wraiths now mounted on winged fell beasts since their horses were destroyed at the ford of Bruinen. The Fellowship adapts their travel patterns, moving mostly during daylight hours and hiding under trees at night when the flying enemies are most active. After many leagues of river travel, they reach a sight that takes their breath away. The Argonath rise from the water like monuments to a lost age of greatness. These are the Gates of the Kings, 2 gigantic statues of ancient rulers with their left arms outstretched in gestures of warning. Isildur and Anarion, the founders of Gondor, stand guard over the river in stone forms that dwarf anything the Fellowship has seen. The boats float between these awe-inspiring monuments, which serve as remnants of the Old Kingdom's power and glory. Even in their current state, the statues command respect and wonder from all who pass beneath their stone gaze. The Fellowship is filled with mixed emotions at the sight. wonder at the craftsmanship and scale, trepidation at entering lands where such monuments were needed. Even Boromir, son of Gondor, feels humbled to pass beneath the watchful eyes of his mighty ancestors. Beyond the Argonath, the river widens into Nen Hithol, a lake surrounded by steep hills. At the southern end stands Parth Galen, a grassy slope at the feet of Amon Hen, the Hill of Sight. Nearby, the falls of Rauros create a great waterfall where the river cascades south. Aragorn plans to halt at this location and make the crucial decision that's been weighing on them since leaving Rivendell. Should they head east toward Mordor and certain danger, or west toward Gondor, where Boromir's people need help? All members of the Fellowship know this choice is coming, and the weight of decision presses on them. The unity they've maintained since leaving Rivendell shows signs of strain as different paths call to different hearts. Boromir has grown increasingly anxious the closer they get to Gondor's borders. His people are under constant attack, and he believes the ring could be the weapon that saves them. The burden of that knowledge and his growing desire to use the ring trouble him more with each passing day. The peaceful journey down the river is about to end. At Parth Galen, the Fellowship will face choices that will test their bonds and determine whether they can stay together for the final push toward Mount Doom. The gifts of Galadriel travel with them, but even elven magic might not be enough to hold the company together when the moment of decision finally arrives. The moment of greatest betrayal was about to collide with the deadliest attack the Fellowship had ever faced. What happened next would shatter their unity forever and force the ring-bearer to make the hardest choice of his life. The Fellowship pulls ashore at Parth Galen on February 26, 3019. The grassy slopes below Amon Hen offer a peaceful place to rest before making the most crucial decision of their quest. Aragorn calls for a break, knowing they need to choose their path soon. Should they head east toward Mordor and almost certain death, or west toward Gondor, where they might find allies and support? Frodo wanders off into the woods, seeking solitude to grapple with the choice that weighs most heavily on his mind. He suspects he must go to Mordor alone, but the thought of abandoning his friends tears at his heart. Meanwhile, Boromir notices Frodo's absence. The ring's temptation has been clouding his mind for weeks, growing stronger with each day they've traveled closer to his homeland. He follows Frodo into the forest, driven by thoughts he can no longer control. In a secluded spot among the ancient ruins of Amon Hen, Boromir confronts the ring-bearer. He starts by speaking reasonably about the war and Gondor's desperate need for the ring's power. His father and people are failing against Sauron's armies, Boromir explains. They need this weapon to defend themselves. Surely Frodo can understand the logic of using the ring to save innocent lives. But as Frodo responds that the ring cannot be used for good, Boromir grows agitated. The corruption that's been building inside him finally reaches a breaking point. Boromir succumbs completely to the ring's influence. His tone turns desperate and angry as he insists that Frodo give him the ring immediately. The reasonable man disappears, replaced by someone consumed by need and fear. Frodo backs away in alarm, recognizing the dangerous change in his friend's behavior. This isn't the noble warrior who joined their quest in Rivendell. This is someone the ring has twisted into something else entirely. Suddenly, Boromir lunges forward, crying that he must have the ring. All pretense of discussion vanishes as he tries to take by force what Frodo won't give willingly. Frodo yells his refusal and slips the ring onto his finger in panic. The familiar sensation of invisibility saves him from Boromir's grasp, but at a terrible cost. Boromir stumbles and falls, momentarily stunned by his failure to capture the now invisible hobbit. Reality crashes back as he realizes what he's just done. Calling out apologetically into the empty air, Boromir tries to undo his betrayal with words, but Frodo has already fled, running through the forest while invisible and heartbroken. Galadriel's warning has come true. One of the Fellowship has tried to take the ring just as she predicted. The companion Frodo knew but could not yet see clearly was Boromir all along. Frodo understands now that the ring's corruption can infect even the best of his friends. If someone as noble as Boromir can fall to its influence, then no one in the Fellowship is truly safe from its power. Shocked and heartbroken, Frodo knows what he must do. He has to continue the quest alone, removing the ring's temptation from those he cares about before it destroys them all. At that exact moment, disaster strikes from an unexpected direction. A band of Uruk-hai launches a sudden assault in the woods of Amon. These large, fearsome orcs have been dispatched by Saruman and led by a brutish captain named Lurtz. They've been tracking the Fellowship for days, waiting for the perfect moment to attack. Merry and Pippin, who had been gathering firewood away from the main camp, suddenly find themselves chased by snarling Uruks. The peaceful forest erupts into chaos as black-armored enemies pour through the trees. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli hear the battle cries and rush into combat. They fight scattered skirmishes against the Uruk-hai forces, trying to protect their friends while being separated by the dense forest terrain. The Fellowship becomes divided just when they need unity most. Each member faces their own desperate fight for survival. Merry and Pippin realize that Frodo is nowhere in sight during the battle. They correctly deduce that he might be trying to leave the group and continue alone, just as he's been considering. When they spot Frodo running toward the river after removing the ring, the two young hobbits make a decision that shows incredible courage and selflessness. They deliberately expose themselves to the enemy, jumping out of hiding and shouting insults at the Uruk-hai. They throw stones and call the creatures servants of Saruman, doing everything possible to draw attention away from Frodo's escape route. Their plan works perfectly. A number of Uruks, thinking the ring-bearer might be traveling with these halflings, abandon their other targets to chase Merry and Pippin instead. Frodo watches from his hiding place with the ring on, torn between loyalty to his friends and the necessity of completing his mission. The sight of Merry and Pippin sacrificing themselves for his escape breaks his heart. At that crucial moment, Aragorn appears and immediately understands what's happening. The ranger sees Frodo's struggle and makes the decision for him, urging the hobbit to run while he still can. Aragorn then turns to face a horde of approaching Uruks, buying Frodo precious time to slip away unseen. The future king of Gondor stands between the ring-bearer and his enemies, willing to die to protect the mission. Merry and Pippin run for their lives through the forest, but they're quickly surrounded by the superior numbers and strength of their pursuers. Despite their courage and determination, they're captured after a brief struggle. The strong Uruk hands grab them roughly, ending their desperate flight. They're taken prisoner, struggling uselessly against enemies far stronger than they are. The fellowship that began in hope and unity at Rivendell has been shattered in a matter of minutes. Frodo flees toward the boats, carrying the ring away from friends and enemies alike. Merry and Pippin face captivity and unknown horrors as prisoners of Saruman's forces. Boromir's betrayal has fulfilled the darkest prophecy about their quest. The ring's power to corrupt has torn apart the very people who swore to protect its bearer. As battle rages through the woods of Amon, each surviving member of the Fellowship faces choices that will determine not just their own fate, but the future of all Middle-earth. The breaking of the Fellowship has begun, and nothing will ever be the same. The most unlikely hero was about to make the ultimate sacrifice. What began as betrayal would end in redemption, forever changing the meaning of courage and loyalty. Boromir regains his senses after his failed attempt to take the ring from Frodo. The madness that clouded his mind clears, and he realizes with terrible remorse what he's done. He betrayed the person he swore to protect and broke faith with friends who trusted him. Determined to make amends for his actions, Boromir hears the sounds of battle echoing through the forest. His friends are in danger, and he has a chance to redeem himself through action rather than words. He rushes toward the commotion and finds Merry and Pippin in the grip of several Uruk-hai. The two young hobbits are struggling against enemies far stronger than they are, facing capture or death. With a great battle cry that echoes his pride as captain of Gondor, Boromir charges into the fray. His sword cuts through Uruk after Uruk as he displays the fighting skills that made him legendary among his people. Merry and Pippin break free in the confusion and start hacking at orc legs with their small swords. They're trying to help their rescuer however they can, though their weapons seem tiny against such massive enemies. Boromir sounds his war horn loudly, sending its call echoing through the woods. Aragorn and the others hear this desperate plea for aid, though they're fighting their own battles elsewhere in the forest. He fights with incredible valor, cleaving through Uruks and driving them back through sheer determination. For a moment, it looks like he might actually save the hobbits and escape with them to safety. But the fearsome Uruk chief Lurtz steps forward with his bow, recognizing that this lone warrior poses the greatest threat to their mission. The first arrow strikes Boromir in the shoulder. He staggers from the impact, but continues fighting fiercely, refusing to abandon the hobbits he's trying to protect. A second arrow hits him in the abdomen. The pain should drop him, but Boromir roars and keeps the Uruks at bay through pure force of will. His determination to protect Merry and Pippin overrides his body's limitations. Even a third arrow to the chest doesn't fell him immediately. Boromir fights on, though his strength is fading fast and his movements grow slower with each passing second. Finally, his body can endure no more. Boromir collapses to his knees, exhausted and pierced with 3 arrows. Even then, he tries to rise and continue protecting the hobbits he's grown to love like younger brothers. Merry and Pippin cry out in horror as they watch their protector sustain these terrible wounds. They understand that he's dying to save them, and the knowledge breaks their hearts. Despite Boromir's heroism, more Uruks pour into the clearing. The wounded warrior can no longer hold them back, and the enemy quickly overwhelms their position. Merry and Pippin are seized again by the Uruk-hai forces. Seeing that Boromir is mortally wounded and no longer a threat, Lurtz orders the hobbits taken alive according to Saruman's specific commands. The 2 young hobbits scream as they're carried off into the woods by their captors. Their cries echo through the forest as they disappear from sight, bound for an unknown fate. Aragorn arrives on the scene moments later to find Boromir fallen and the hobbits gone. The sight fills him with rage and determination in equal measure. He confronts Lurtz in a duel that becomes deeply personal. The hulking Uruk leader represents everything evil about Saruman's forces, and Aragorn channels all his fury into the fight. Lurtz proves to be strong and fast, matching Aragorn's skill with brutal power. But the ranger fights with desperation and righteous anger that gives him an edge the Uruk can't match. After a brutal exchange of blows, Aragorn gains the upper hand through superior technique and determination. He impales Lurtz through the torso with his sword, then follows with a swift strike that decapitates the enemy leader. With their captain dead, the remaining Uruk-hai begin withdrawing from the battlefield. They have what they came for, believing that one of the captured hobbits might possess the ring they seek. Aragorn rushes to Boromir's side and kneels beside the dying warrior. Boromir is barely alive, propped against a tree with 3 orc arrows piercing his body. Boromir musters his last strength to speak words that have been weighing on his conscience. He confesses his attempt to take the ring from Frodo, his voice filled with shame and regret. Aragorn takes his hand and offers comfort to the dying man. When Boromir says he has failed them all, Aragorn firmly contradicts him. The warrior fought bravely and kept his honor when it mattered most. In this emotional moment, Boromir acknowledges Aragorn as his true king. His final words express loyalty and brotherhood that transcends their different stations in life. Moved to tears by this declaration, Aragorn makes a promise that honors Boromir's greatest concern. Gondor will not fall. The future king vows to come to Minas Tirith's aid, just as Boromir always wanted. Boromir smiles faintly at this reassurance before passing away in Aragorn's arms. The son of Gondor dies, having redeemed his earlier betrayal with the ultimate sacrifice. Moments later, Legolas and Gimli arrive to find their friend mourning over Boromir's body. They see immediately that Merry and Pippin are gone, taken by the enemy forces. Frodo is also missing, though for different reasons than the captured hobbits. Aragorn realizes that Frodo has decided to continue the quest alone. The ring-bearer understood that staying with the group would only put more people at risk of corruption. Not far away on the riverbank, this assumption proves correct. Frodo has reached one of the boats and resolved to go to Mordor by himself. He believes this is the only way to prevent his friends from being harmed or corrupted by the ring's influence. Sam discovers Frodo as he's pushing off from shore. The loyal gardener absolutely refuses to be left behind, no matter what dangers lie ahead. From the boat, Frodo tells Sam that he must go alone. The ring is his burden to carry, and he won't risk Sam's life or soul by bringing him into greater peril. In response, Sam does something that demonstrates the depth of his loyalty. Even though he can't swim, he wades into the river after his master. The deep water quickly overwhelms him, and he sinks below the surface. Frodo watches in horror as his dearest friend nearly drowns trying to follow him. Overcome with emotion, he turns the boat around and reaches into the water to save Sam. He pulls the sputtering gardener into the boat, realizing that his attempt to protect Sam by leaving him behind has only put him in more danger. Frodo tearfully explains that he hoped leaving Sam would keep him safe, but Sam's response shows why their friendship has endured through every trial they've faced. Sam reminds Frodo of the promise he made back in the Shire. He swore not to leave his master, and he means to keep that vow regardless of what it costs him. This unwavering loyalty moves Frodo deeply. He accepts that he truly needs his friend for the journey ahead, both for practical help and emotional support. Smiling through his tears, Frodo welcomes Sam aboard. Together they paddle across the Anduin toward the eastern shore, beginning the lonely road to Mordor as a company of two. On the western shore, the remaining members of the Fellowship deal with the aftermath of their losses. They prepare Boromir's body for a warrior's farewell, placing his cloven horn and sword upon his chest. They lay him in one of the boats and send him over the falls of Rauros, giving him the honor due a hero who died protecting those weaker than himself. With heavy hearts, they acknowledge that the Fellowship as originally formed no longer exists. Gandalf is presumed dead after his fall in Moria. Boromir has died defending the hobbits. Frodo and Sam have departed for Mordor alone. Merry and Pippin are prisoners of the enemy, but Aragorn refuses to abandon the captured hobbits to torture and death. Their rescue becomes the new mission for the surviving members of the original company. Legolas and Gimli immediately agree with this decision. Their fellowship and friendship remain strong despite the losses they've suffered. Aragorn speaks words that define their new purpose with grim determination. They're going to hunt some orcs and bring their friends home safely. As Frodo and Sam begin their trek toward the shadow of Mordor on the eastern side of the river, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli set off across the hills of Emyn Muil, following the trail of the Uruk-hai. Though separated by distance and different missions, the companions remain united in purpose. Each group faces their own challenges, but they share the same goal of defeating the darkness threatening their world. The first part of the quest ends on this bittersweet note. The Fellowship of the Ring has been broken, scattered by betrayal, death, and the impossible weight of their burden. But they are not defeated. Frodo carries the ring toward its destruction, supported by the most loyal friend anyone could ask for. The others pursue a rescue mission that honors the bonds they've forged through shared trials. A new chapter lies ahead for each of them. The great tale of the War of the Ring continues, carried forward by heroes who refuse to surrender hope even when everything seems lost. The Fellowship may be sundered, but the courage and love that bound them together will endure. In the end, that might be enough to save Middle-earth from the darkness that seeks to consume it. Their journey as one company has ended. Their individual journeys as heroes have just begun.